morning. I am Darlacansell from South Louisiana with Real Broker. And let's talk about a couple of things. What is pride of ownership, and how in the world does that have anything to do with getting you top dollar for your listing? You know, I got into real estate 5 years ago, fresh out of education. I had been in education for 20 years. I'd been a teacher, then I'd been an administrator, and then in my last 5 years I was a technology supervisor. So education is just in my bones. I wanted to be a teacher for as long as I could remember. I wanted to be a teacher, and I didn't know if I'd be good at it. But when I became a teacher, I absolutely fell in love with it, and I got many awards for being a top performing teacher year after year after year. And I loved it. And so when I got out of education, absolutely missed it. But because I was a teacher, I feel like I have a huge advantage when dealing with you if you're thinking about being a seller lately or in the future. I'm never, ever going to say to a seller, you must do this. Every single thing I say when I meet with a seller are recommendations based on houses that I've closed on. So I'm probably, in the last 5 years, I'm close to probably 350 closed transactions, which means I've dealt with lots of sellers, lots of buyers, lots of inspectors, lots of appraisers, lots of banks, and just, so I know, I'll tell you this. I will never consider myself an expert in anything, because to me, we're always learning. With every new transaction, we learn something new. So I will never say adamantly this is going to happen. But what I know for sure is this. I've done it over and over and over again. I've met with sellers and I've given them recommendations for what they should do to get their house picture ready, photo ready, videography ready, and I've proven time and time again that the process works. I've said it before and I'll say it again. A monkey can put a for sale sign in the front yard of a house and a lockbox on the door and call it a day. And sadly, lots of realtors, that is what they do. They put a sign in the yard, they put a lockbox on the door, they post it into our system where all the real estate listings go, and they pray that it sells. And that's what many do. And that, to me, is unjust and it's unfair. So, when I first got into real estate, what I quickly realized, I didn't have a whole lot of sellers, but I had a whole lot of buyers that wanted to go look at houses. And I would go into houses that were dark, dingy, dirty, stinky, full of crap, and it literally looked like the realtor had showed up at their house, signed all the paperwork, put a lockbox on the door, and put a sign in the front yard, and said a prayer that it would sell. And shame on realtors who are doing that, because they are doing an absolute disservice to their clients. Anybody can do that. You can do that yourself. And listen, you don't need somebody to tell you that you need to clean your house and declutter and do those kinds of things. But some people just don't want to take the time, energy, and effort to do it. So what matters most is first impressions. When somebody is online, and that's where the vast majority of buyers are looking. Before they ever go drive by a home in person, the vast majority of people are looking at your house for sale online, and first impressions are absolutely huge. So, pride of ownership means this, that when a buyer sees your house in pictures for the first time, it looks neat, it looks clean, it looks bright, it looks like you are proud of your place. And then, hopefully, based on what they see online, they then want to schedule a showing to come and see your house in person. And so thinking about when a person drives into the driveway or just passes in front of the house, thinking about first impressions. I'm going to tell you a little story. About 3 years ago, I got a call from a guy in Oberlin who had a cute little painted cream-colored brick house, okay? So he had first tried to sell it himself on Facebook Marketplace for a good while, till he got tired of dealing with people who, listen, it's hard to screen people if you don't know what you're doing, okay? So he got tired of that rat race. So then he listed it with a realtor. He listed it for a year with that first realtor. Then he listed it with the second realtor the second year. By the time he called me, because somebody recommended that he call me, he was so tired, so exhausted, he thought his house was never gonna sell. All right, so first impressions. I drive up to this house that had now by this time been on the market for 3 years. A cute cream-colored brick house in Oberlin. Guess what? The house was supposed to be cream-colored. It was green because it was so dirty. Now, shame on every other realtor who had ever met with this guy and didn't say, listen, the very first thing you need to do is power wash. The very first thing you need to do is power wash this house. So when I say to the seller, okay, so listen, you've listed it with other realtors, you've tried it yourself, or you're prepared to do every single thing I tell you to do to get it sold. Because listen, if you call me because you've listed your house with a bunch of other realtors and they haven't had the balls to tell you that you need to do this, this, and this, at this point I'm saying the only way I'm listing it is if you agree to do these things, so that I know I'm not wasting my time, energy, effort, and money to get it sold when it's already been on the market for 3 years, right? So number one, you need to power wash this house. Listen, the house was empty. They'd already moved out. They had moved for a job to another town. So they really needed to sell this house because they were paying 2 mortgages. So I'll never forget this, because after he power washed it, he called me and was almost in tears. And he said, Ms. Darla, my house has never looked this good. It had probably never been power washed. So you can imagine the difference in just first impressions power washing this house. Now, it was a huge house. It was a brick house on a slab, and it was completely empty. And so all the other realtors staged it. So what I like to do, if it's a house that I think is going to be tough to sell, maybe it's not that beautiful, I will virtually stage it so that a person can picture themselves living in the house. So once he freshened up the outside, the inside really was fine because it was empty. There was nothing in the house. I think I had him just do a cleaning. But anyway, I listed it. I virtually staged it. We listed it for more than he had listed it on Facebook Marketplace, and more than every other realtor had listed it. It went under contract for a full price offer day 2 on the market. Why? Because first impressions and professional pictures, all of his other people that had listed his house did not take professional pictures, and they surely did not do a drone flyover where you can see the beautiful neighborhood. He lived in a great neighborhood. So my photographer flew over with his drone, took drone photography and all the things, and his house went under contract for full price. Remember, it was listed more than any other realtor had listed it for, because I know how to pull comparables, and I knew that that house was way lower than it should be listed for because no other realtor wanted to tell him what he needed to do to make it look appealing in pictures, okay? So in some instances, if I'm the 3rd or 4th or 5th realtor that you call and you haven't sold the house, probably your list is going to be mandatory. But listen, it's not going to be hard stuff. It's not going to be like ripping up carpets or anything major. It's going to mostly be de-cleaning, decluttering, and making sure you have a great first impression. Pride of ownership means when a person walks up to your house or drives past it on the road, they get the impression that you take pride in where you live. The grass is cut. If you have landscaping, you have fresh mulch and not a bunch of weeds. If you have bushes in the front, they're trimmed and they're not touching the house. The door that you go into the house isn't all scraped up and dirty. It's fresh. So you want to give the impression that you absolutely take pride in where you live. And so that matters. And that is why when I list houses, we don't list them high to negotiate down. We list them, I list them, at the price that I know they can sell for and at the price that I know they're going to appraise for, okay? So here's another thing. What a lot of people do not realize, and I did not know this until I got into real estate, is probably, if I had to guess, 95% of buyers are going to use some kind of government loan, which means a VA loan if they're a veteran, an RD loan, or it's also called USDA or Rural Development if you qualify for that kind of loan, or an FHA loan. Okay, those are all government loans. Well, all of those government loans have stipulations on what your house has to have. So in other words, your house can't have peeling paint. It can't have rotten wood. It can't have broken windows. It surely can't have holes in the floors. The stairways, wherever you have stairs, need to have a handrail. Those kinds of things. So a lot of times when I meet with sellers, they will say, listen, I don't have the time, money, or energy to do what I need to do to get it to sell. Well, listen, if you aren't going to do what you need to do to make sure it qualifies for all of those loan types, your house is going to sit on the market for a very, very long time, and you're probably going to have to end up lowering the price because about 5% of people can qualify for a loan if your house is in that condition, right? So they can either pay cash or they can get just a regular local bank loan, which is a conventional loan. If it has peeling paint, rotten wood, broken windows, no handrails, holes in the floor, if the foundation is awful, different things like that, a buyer can submit an offer, you can accept it, and they're going to be denied when the appraiser comes, looks at the house. The appraiser's going to say, all of these things have to be done before they can move forward with their loan. So you will waste a whole lot of time as a seller if you have a buyer that comes along. Let's just say they are FHA approved, okay? So you have an FHA approved buyer, they submit an offer on your house, you accept it. If you have rotten wood, peeling paint, broken glass, anything like that, then the appraiser is going to come back with a list of all of these things that now have to be done in order for the person to get their loan. And so if you as the seller weren't planning on doing anything, then that buyer has now wasted inspection money, time going to look at the house, appraisal money, and lots of time. And that is a terrible thing to do. That's not an honest thing to do. And I do know lots of realtors who are not going to say to their sellers, you need to do this, and this so that it qualifies, because they don't have the confidence in themselves to tell them that, and then that deal is going to fall apart. Especially if when they list it, they check off, it applies for all of these loan types, okay? Now listen, I've been wrong quite a couple of times with sellers. I'll give you an example. I listed one about 3 years ago in the town of Iota. It was an older home. The whole house needed to be repainted. The whole outside had peeling paint, okay? So thankfully the sellers hired some painters, had it freshly repainted. The house looked amazing, and the garage did too. Behind the garage, there was a little old storage building that looked like if the wind blew too hard, it would just demolish it. It was in that poor of condition, okay? Well, we all know, just like any other profession, there are people who are lazy, and there are people who are very meticulous, and then the vast majority run right there in the middle, right? So I say to the sellers, listen, an appraiser who walks the property and actually looks at it is going to flag that little building because it's rotten, it's falling apart, the door was hanging off, the paint was peeling, it just needs to be torn down. But if y'all don't want to tear it down now, wait and see. You may very well get a lazy appraiser who never flags that building. And this was an FHA appraisal, okay? Well, we get the appraisal back, it's all great. He doesn't write anything in the appraisal about that little building. Why? Because he probably never stepped foot on the property. He probably looked at it online or drove by it, and if you drive by it, you wouldn't see the little building in the back. So, but I tell you, I work with lots of appraisers who would have walked that entire property, and the very first thing they would have said is that building has to be torn down and removed in order for these clients to move forward with their loan. So appraisal is a hugely subjective business. And so as a seller, listen, if you want to take your chances, that's on you. But if your whole house is peeling and your windows are broken and you have missing handrails, I guarantee you, any appraiser that's worth their salt is going to have a list of things that have to be done for the buyer to get approved. And so when you're a seller, you are at a huge advantage if your house qualifies for every single type of loan, which means you don't have peeling paint, you don't have rotten wood, you don't have broken windows, you don't have missing handrails. Those are the major things. There's a few other little nitpicky things, but those are the major things, right? So you are at a huge advantage as a seller if it qualifies, because you can list it at top dollar. It's not going to sit on the market long, and it's going to go under contract quickly if your realtor knows how to price it correctly. Don't price it so out the ballpark that you then have to lower the price. And then when you lower the price as a seller, people then believe, oh, well, there was something wrong with the house. Or because it's been sitting on the market so long, I can now get a very, very, very low deal. So what happens is when you overprice it, you end up losing a whole lot of money just because it sits on the market longer and people think there's something wrong with it. When in fact, your realtor just listed it way higher than it ever should have been listed in the first place, right? So listen, if you are a seller and you have no idea where to get started and you don't want to spend all kinds of extra money to get your house listed, I would say give me a call, let's chat. You tell me what kinds of things do you think need to be done on your house before you list it, and I'm going to tell you. Listen, most of the time it's cleaning, it's decluttering, it's making sure you have bright lights, it's making sure that first impressions are huge, and that there's nothing broken that will disqualify buyers, because you want to have the hugest buyer pool when your house hits the market, so that hopefully you either have multiple offers or you get above list price. That can absolutely happen. Yo, it is a beautiful Thursday in South Louisiana. My God, I'm on my way. I have meetings all day today. I have a very busy day. I'm excited. Have a couple of new listings coming very soon and a bunch of closings. I'm busy, but remember this: if I represent you as either the seller or the buyer, you are absolutely going to be my #1 priority. I'm going to do what I need to do to help you get to the closing table, okay? And you're going to enjoy the process. It's going to be absolutely worth the outcome. Listen, as a seller, it's not fun to pack up and move, but if you have to, the end result's always worth it if you have a great person on your team. Remember this: in real estate, there are no stupid questions. Ask your questions, all right? Y'all take care and have a great day.